Welcome back, cuties. I realize I'm not wearing makeup this time. That's okay, I just don't really feel like wearing makeup today. It's kind of humid. But if you're watching this video, then you gotta know that this is part 2 of a multi-part series where I expose you to all of the cool queer punk musicians that you should check out. You should definitely go watch part 1 if you haven't already. Let's continue right where we left off. So the next band on this list is Los Crudos. Yeah, do you remember in the first entry where I talked about an apparel store that I said I used to frequent in Burbank called Red Zone? Well, in that store, they sold punk patches, among other things, and one of those punk patches was none other than the band called Los Crudos. Yeah, I don't have it anymore, because the paint wore off. Just like Pansy Division, Los Crudos formed in 1991, but this time formed in the Lower West Side of Chicago, Illinois. To the untrained ear, Los Crudos can be a bit of an acquired taste, because Los Crudos' music can be best described as extremely fast and aggressive, faster than your usual punk music. I would even say very fucking hardcore punk music. I guess that's why they're called Los Crudos, because their music is so raw and edgy. What also makes Los Crudos stand out is that not only is their music extremely and openly anti-imperialist, but it also is in Spanish. This is because they wanted to appeal to not just your typical white hardcore scenes, but also very specifically to marginalized communities of color, a lot of whom weren't really represented properly in the broader hardcore scene. Yeah, as someone like myself who grew up speaking the English language and who has like a mildly not very fluent understanding of Espanol, as somebody who is actively learning Spanish, learning the words of a certain Spanish song, whether it be Los Crudos or Juan Gabriel, like, these are not very hard for me to understand, and I really want to encourage people who say that they don't listen to songs that are not in English to push that comfort zone just a little bit, because I think that there is a vast world of music out there that is in other languages that I think you very well may benefit from. I apologize for butchering his name. I did try to look into it and got different results, but Martin Sarandagay is the singer of Los Crudos. He founded the DIY record label Langua Armada Discos, who were also known for signing bands like Charles Bronson, Look Back and Laugh, and Limp Bizkit, another band that we will discuss later into this series. 2 Los Crudos songs I would strongly recommend is Crudo Soy and En Mi Opinion. Both songs go very hard and they have excellent guitar riffs that I just think are just so raw and edgy to that sound that makes hardcore and crust punk so endearing. I want to highlight an interview from the website DIYconspiracy.net to give you an idea as to why Martin sings in Spanish, but also about racism and imperialism, and he also is a prominent member of the broader queercore community. So this is a quote: "It is very difficult if we begin to speak in terms of whole groups of people. So with any group of people, you have a lot of overlap into differences because we are not flat human beings. We all have differences. So when speaking about a gay person who then is also an immigrant or from a third world nation, or if you have a gay person that is poor as opposed to the stereotype of having money, or if you are transgendered, it gets more complicated and interesting." Yeah, we will touch upon this use of this word in a minute. There are folks who juggle all of the dimensions of their lives, so in punk, queercore is an identity, and it comes with expectations and a consciousness awareness. So you cannot identify as queercore and not have a greater scope of the world around you. In fact, being queercore or a gay, lesbian, queer, trans punk has opened up expanded dialogue and actions to make real equitable change in the scene and in the world. Okay, that is the whole quote. I just want to get this out of the way. The use of the word transgendered with a, ED at the end didn't age well at all. Saying someone is quote-unquote transgendered kind of implies that being trans quote-unquote happened to them, like an unfortunate circumstance which feeds into the conspiracy theory of social contagion, something that's been already repeatedly debunked by the American Academy of Pediatrics. So that's just for those in the audience who don't know the difference, and I'm just going to give Martin the biggest benefit of the doubt that I've ever given anyone in my entire life, because I'm sure that since 2010, which is when this article was published 14 years ago, that he probably already knows this by now, and that I don't need to further explain my point here. But aside from that, like, he's basically correct about everything he said. The LGBT community exists literally everywhere in the world. Queer and trans people don't just exist in gender-affirming spaces, but in places where it is not safe to be queer and trans. Being queer and trans also exists across all class lines, whether it be rich or poor, progressive, conservative, hell, reactionary or revolutionary for that matter. Being punk for me has always been about making space for yourself in a world that routinely marginalizes you. So with the existence of queercore, it has only greatly benefited the broader punk community with a better understanding that we all have for one another, which is why I'm giving Martin a little bit of a break for the rhetoric that he used, because he still is making an excellent point that is absolutely true. I want to tell you about She, Her, Hers. Emma Girl and her friends make up of She, Her, Hers, a very poppy folk punk project. However, before I continue, I want to highlight a post that was made by She, Her, Hers. Quote, "I have something I need to get off my chest. I'm not punk anymore. I don't listen to punk. I don't dress punk. I'm too afraid to commit crime, and I know way too many chords on the guitar now. The only thing that remains is that I hate cops," end quote. Well, I'm putting you on this list because of the music that you made, and that you're still very much well loved in both the punk and queer community. Even if punk is a label that you no longer identify with, that is absolutely valid. Besides, when punk becomes about a pissing contest, fuck it, I'm out. So yeah, similarly to Audrey Platt, She, Her, Hers has a lot of songs that are very important about not only being trans, but specifically about being happy as a trans person. I think like the two most important songs that you should go listen to, especially if you're struggling coming out as a trans person, or in any aspect of the LGBT spectrum, would be Gender is Boring, which is a fantastic song that challenges the arbitrary nature of gender itself, and a really important song I think you should always listen to, especially when you're feeling down or dysphoric, is I Think I Finally Love Myself. And this is a really tremendous song because, like, there is a tremendous amount of stress and self-hatred that is lifted off of your shoulders when you realize that these gender roles and social expectations of gender roles are so arbitrary and nonsensical. I wholeheartedly believe that She, Her, Hers is one of those music projects that you're going to be listening to with tears dripping down your face because of how masterful the songwriting is. You're probably not going to be moshing to this music, but the vibe of her music is so similar to the kind of music that you're gonna want to play at the park with a box of Little Caesars and some beer. Give She, Her, Hers a listen. I think you're gonna enjoy what she has to offer, even if she doesn't identify with being punk. Next up, I want you to pick it up with Catbite. Yo, I love Catbite. Catbite is a ska band from Philadelphia that was formed in 2018. Catbite is pretty similar to Los Cacaleros in that they're a female-fronted ska band, but where they differ is how edgy they are. Edgy in a good way, as in there certainly is a stronger punk rock edge to their sound despite them being a ska band. The band itself is only 4 members too, as opposed to Los Cacaleros, which I can imagine is probably a little easier to manage, but I digress. Now, I really like their cover of White Riot by The Clash. I grew up listening to The Clash. I love The Clash. I mean, I have like a love-hate relationship with Joe Strummer in particular. I think Joe Strummer is a great musician. I think his, contribution to the album Cut the Crap. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic here. The Clash was a really good gateway for me to get into punk and ska music, and so I really like seeing a ska band covering White Riot. Also, the song Call Your Bluff is a really good song that highlights exactly why the band is so edgy in the first place, and it's just a fantastic song overall. It's really dancey. The band is just so dynamic. The band is still very active, and they're playing the Philly Music Festival coming this October, so if you're looking for a good time around the fall time, I mean, y'all better get on that. And I mean, hey, the band is celebrating Pride after all. Now the next band, I don't think any of you know about, but I know that a majority of you have actually heard them. I introduced to you Sissy Bar. So a year ago, like last Pride Month, I did a movie review of the film But I'm a Cheerleader. It's my most viewed video on the channel, and I'm very, very, very proud of the fact that it was my most viewed video, in large part to Jesse Gender sharing the video. But that being said, while researching the movie to make the video essay, I stumbled upon the musicians behind the soundtrack, and one of those bands was Sissy Bar. If you have seen But I'm a Cheerleader, you definitely heard Sissy Bar before. The band formed in 1994 after the two founding members listened to Snoop Dogg's new song that was just released at the time on the Doggy Style album, Gin and Juice. The album was released earlier that year, and yes, they did eventually do a cover of that song. Two songs I would recommend besides the Snoop Dogg cover would be Daryl in Spain and Trailer Song. Trailer Song is the big song that was in But I'm a Cheerleader. And I'm gonna tell you right now, while I was making that But I'm a Cheerleader video essay, I put those two specific songs on repeat, so you have to go listen to those songs now. They mostly played backyard shows, a few venues like Spaceland when it was still open, and appeared on local radio stations as well as compilation albums. Unfortunately, there is not a lot of information on this band to go around, but all of these pictures that you're currently seeing are from a website that has all of these pictures, and I'll put it in the description below if you're interested in looking through it. It just seems like But I'm a Cheerleader, which is an already very obscure film, was their most renowned release. Most of the songs on But I'm a Cheerleader can be found on their debut album Statutory Grape, although I really think their 1999 album Songs for Peeps is a very underrated release of theirs, and I strongly recommend that you go look it up on YouTube and Spotify. And of course, last but certainly not least for this episode, I'm going to tell you about GLOSS. GLOSS is an acronym that stands for Girls Living Outside Society's Shit. GLOSS is a queer hardcore punk band out of Olympia, Washington. They were only active between 2014 and 2016, a very short lifespan, but for good reason, which we will get into shortly. The band released a demo in 2015 and an EP in 2016 called Trans Day of Revenge. Yeah, they got popular very quickly. Two songs that I would recommend right away are Outcast Stomp and Give Violence a Chance. So yeah, what happened was in 2016, GLOSS was offered a record deal with Epitaph Records, which is, wow, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They were originally considering taking the $50,000 deal to help with their friends and causes that they believed in dearly. But the fact that Epitaph was owned by Warner Brothers was enough for them to decline the deal. Now, was this a good choice for them to do? I mean, considering that Warner Brothers has a monopolistic stronghold on overall most of the media, along with a dwindling number of corporations holding that monopoly on the media and information, as well as Warner Brothers making a certain film that I absolutely despise with every fiber in my body, I can absolutely see why they would decline such an offer. Later, it was announced on Maximum Rock and Roll that they were breaking up since the mounting pressure of the band's popularity was really weighing in on them, and that the touring band life was affecting their home lives. The former band members are still friends, however, and the breakup of the band was purely on their own mutual terms. You know though, I like that for them. That was a healthy decision. The last thing you want to do when somebody asks you why your band broke up is to unpack some baggages that you and your bandmate spewed together in the drama cesspool, and you don't want to do that. Why unpack that drama? Fuck that. Why linger around when it's only gonna go downhill from there, when selling out like Joe Strummer when he made Cut the... So Gloss left behind a legacy for the broader queer and trans community within the punk community, not baggage, and for that, I am so grateful. Tune in next week where we're gonna review more queer punk rock musicians. Also share this video around and the other one. Get people aware of like these cool bands. It's Pride Month and we need to give them exposure. We need to go follow them. We need to buy their music. We need to buy their albums. We need to follow them on Spotify. We need to buy their merch and we need to go to their shows. But make sure you're doing that, everybody. Happy Pride.